Welcome back to Lore of the South with me, Kelly Cruz. How the heck are y'all doing? So, sorry about standing y'all up last week. You know the saying, we'll get to it when it all calms down. It never calms down, ever. There's always something next. It's just been wild. Our poor old cat. I don't know if I've mentioned Wally. I probably have. We've been doing this for going on, this was year 3. So, but Wally is 14 and a half. We have had him since our kids were in car seats. He couldn't walk. Started having problems with his hip the week before Christmas. So we took him, they did x-ray, took him to the vet. They did x-rays. All they could find was some arthritis in both hips. The uninjured hip was in worse shape than the good hip, the left hip. The left hip was the injured one. The right hip looked worse on the x-ray, but it wasn't the one giving him any issues. So the doctor was like, by Christmas, he'll be up and around. He'll be his old self. Well, then he gets up, starts walking by Christmas. It's rough, though. I mean, he cannot put any weight on it. Then the poor thing, his eyes just start oozing, and then he's snoring. Then he starts sneezing blood out of his nose. It was bad. I've never seen a cat with a nosebleed. It was, we thought there was something really, really wrong going on. Oh, and he has FIV. So he's old, has kitty AIDS, and it was rough. So we went back to the vet, and we're thinking this is it. He's going to have to be put down this time. There's no way he's going to come back to us from this. He'd even lost 2 more pounds, and he's just a bag of bones. So the vet looks him over. This is actually our regular vet's backup that saw him. And he's like, yeah, he's a sick guy, but he doesn't have a fever. And you say he wants to eat and he wants to drink and everything. And he's like, let's give him some antibiotics and see what happens. This morning, I kid you not, I get up. The cat is standing in front of his food dish meowing at me. I swear he's immortal. I cannot tell you how many times we thought we were going to have to put this cat to sleep because of different infections and injuries and things, but he just keeps going. But it's amazing. We love our old guy. His name's Wally. So that was one of my reasons for not getting the podcast done for y'all, was our old sick cat. What we're going to do for y'all this week is, like I said, I just dropped the ball. We're going to release a Patreon episode from April 2023, and it was our 6th Patreon episode, and it was a 2-parter, y'all. Old Timey medical treatments. So we're going to give y'all the first half for free, but if you want to hear the second half, you're going to have to join the Patreon. It's only $3 a month. I mean, we're cheaper than gas station coffee, y'all. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoy the episode. Thank y'all for always hanging in there with us. And, it feels like we have a big group of friends out there. Thank y'all. And enjoy the episode. Oh, by the way, it gets a little bit gross in here because it is old-timey medical stuff. So, listener beware. I don't think it's anything... What would I rate it? If I were going to give it a TV rating, 12 and up? It's nothing too bad. Just kind of gross. But anyways, y'all, enjoy the show, and we'll talk to y'all on the next Lore of the South.
Welcome to Lore of the South Patreon Edition.
Well, we're back, and thank y'all for being here. You know y'all are our favorite lots listeners, and today we're going to be talking about odd and bizarre medical treatments from history.
Bum, bum, bum.
Say hey, Producer Mike.
Hey.
So what do you know about this subject for today, for our Patreons?
Not a lot.
Our subscribers. Not a lot? Okay. Mm-mm. All right, Captain, don't bump the table. Now, we're at our dining room table again, but this time we have matching microphones, so y'all have to, Judy and Sydney, y'all will have to let us know if you can tell a difference in how it sounds, because before we were using 2 different types of mics. But yeah, let's just get straight into this, because there's quite a bit here, and this may end up being a 2-parter, guys. And that will be a first for us on any subjects. And we've been doing this for 2 years.
Yeah, a little over.
2 years. 2 years around Christmas, I believe. Oh, and happy Easter before I do start. We just did. The Easter Bunny circumnavigated the globe and left treats in Walmart bags because our teenagers wouldn't go get their Easter baskets out of the garage. So they got Walmart bags from the Easter Bunny. It was pretty good. Anyways. Okay, so our first little group here is going to be bloodletting and the 4 humors.
What are humors?
Okay, so...
Or is that going to be in your explanation?
Yes.
Are we going to get there?
Yeah, we're going to talk about all that, but feel free to ask questions at any time. So watching anything that's like from like the Middle Ages up through Georgian time, probably stopping right after, around the Georgian period, the study of the 4 humors go back to like Galen, who was an ancient Roman doctor. Some people call him, they fight between Galen and Hippocrates as to who is the father of medicine.
Oh, okay.
So it's between, one's Greek, one's Roman. But they believed in what they called the 4 humors of the body, which were blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile.
Any bile's not good, right? I mean,
like some of it helps with digestion, but you don't want it on the outside.
Yeah.
Okay, this episode may get gross. If you couldn't tell by the topic. Okay, so the 4 humors, and each of them was based on one of the 4 elements. So blood, it was hot and wet like air. Phlegm was cold and wet like water. Black bile was cold and dry like the earth. And yellow bile was hot and dry like fire.
I think some of that is kind of a stretch on trying to match them up to the,
so I think
elements.
Maybe if it was a winter condition, you were more prone to have your phlegm out of sorts, out of balance.
I guess.
Summertime, maybe it was your blood was too hot, And bloodletting would have been one of the ways that they would have restored your humors back into place.
Balance.
Yes.
It was supposed to be back into balance. I do know that from like books and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, your humors were supposed to stay in balance, and then depending on which humor they thought was out of place was how they treated you.
How did they treat for mucus?
Okay, well that's next. We're getting there.
Oh, okay.
So bloodletting would have been used to treat anything from a teething baby to a president's sore throat. Like that's one of the reasons George Washington died, was because he went out in a storm and came home and felt under the weather, and then progressively the more and more doctors came in and just about drained the president dry and tortured him the entire time they did it. The Dollop, I'm going to mention them several times in this episode, have excellent episodes about George Washington. That's even one of their clean episodes, but it's about his death. And they get into the historical medical details, and it was pretty wild. So look for that. Okay, so like I was saying before, the cold months, phlegm issues, hot months, blood issues. So let's say you get a nosebleed. One of 2 things may have happened. Maybe a red hot poker up your nose to cauterize it. That was one option, pretty extreme. Or they may open up a vein in your elbow and let even more blood out.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. Hello, nerds. Come listen to the History Nerds United podcast, and let's make history fun again. We interview today's best authors, whether they are established Pulitzer Prize winners or someone debuting their first book. Let us show you that history is not a boring class you took in high school, but a place where the best stories come from. And we don't just cover history. We also love to chat about true crime, biographies, memoirs, and so much more. So head on over to History Nerds United and let us introduce you to your new favorite book and learn the story behind the story.
History Nerds United.
Just they're hoping that it comes out the other way.
So maybe it'll stop coming out of your nose if it comes out of your elbow. That's how that worked. Bloodletting was also a popular treatment for the plague, smallpox, and gout. Now, the bile situations would more than likely be treated by a purgative or a strong laxative, or by giving the patient something to make them vomit. Hopefully after your body is empty, your humors will be restored and you are not dead as a side effect.
Yeah, right.
So that's...
Because it sounds to me like a lot of that stuff is that they probably didn't have a lot of control even of those extremes.
They probably had a tourniquet. I'm going to adjust the mic real quick. They would probably have a tourniquet on the arm before they would open a vein or whatever, so they could staunch the flow, kind of thing. Like when they're taking blood, for instance, and they put the little rubber band around your arm. It's a tourniquet.
Yeah.
That way they can, not only does it make your vein bulge because the blood's trying to travel back to your heart, it's also slowing the flow of blood when they puncture the vein.
Yeah.
So kind of the same thought process here. I'm sure they probably use tourniquets so that they can control that.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure they knew about applying pressure and stuff like that too, because that probably would have been
I think that would have been basic enough for them to...
kind of a natural thing.
I was like, oh no, there's something pouring out of here. We better cover it up. Yeah, I think that would be a kind of a natural reaction. Okay, sorry.
The bile situation, is that just like throw up? Is that... What would that be? I mean, that's the only thing. I don't
really even understand what they're calling bile, but they would look at their urine and their poop, and they're also vomit and see if it was off. Like Madness of King George, which is about King George III and when he went mad and how his son was trying to steal the throne and become regent. And then they were trying to cure the king, so that didn't happen because he hated his son. But if you watch that movie, they show some really good Georgian medicine on there, because they mention all these things, the humors, the bile, and they would check his stools and urine every day to make sure that they weren't off. Well, right before the madness occurred, his urine was purple.
Ugh.
So we immediately knew something was wrong with the king.
Yeah, I would imagine that at that point, there's not a lot of hope,
Well, I mean, they're just... Well, for the king there is. You don't know. I never say there's no hope for the king. That's off with your head kind of stuff. You whisper that to your co-conspirators in the back. But so yeah, that's a really good movie to see. They even show cupping, which would have been probably trying to pull the madness out.
Or the demons.
Yeah. I don't know if they would have still been thinking demons in the late 1700s. They were trying to be more medically and scientifically minded by this time. Even more so than we are today. Except because, you know what, though? Gwyneth Paltrow and them, they still going and being cupped.
Aligning the chakras.
Do you know what cupping is?
Yeah, that's where you take the glass jar and heat it, and it vacuums your back into the...
That's exactly what it is.
Now, I don't understand what any of it is about.
It's supposed to be pulling some kind of, bad bile out. It's restoring your humors.
The body.
Just like when you say align the chakras.
Align the chakras.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It is the same thing. Now with the next topic, and this has been pretty heavy, even in our regular episodes. Cocaine, heroin, and opium.
Well, I don't think you can have...
Do we call them the Three Sisters?
I don't know.
That's kind of weird.
I don't know if I'd go there with that.
Okay, so we all had DARE. We're 80s kids. Well, you're a little older, but anyways. Yeah, so we went through the DARE program. We know that the drugs is bad, especially the Three Sisters here. I'm still going to call them that. That's their new name, the Three Sisters. Cocaine, heroin, and opium. And they put this everywhere and in everything. Cocaine was used both as an anesthesia and as a pain reliever and a resuscitation medicine.
That kind of makes sense. If you get all jacked up, you think I can.
Yeah, so apparently it raises your adrenaline. Yeah, it raises your adrenaline level, which is also, wouldn't that be the same thing as putting your body in shock? Like, doesn't your adrenaline, or is that after your adrenaline drops that you go into shock?
Yeah,
I don't know. We need a medical person. I'm just playing Civil War doctor on podcasts.
Right.
No medical training, y'all. I saw it on a movie, on a documentary, or I read it. That's how I know about it. So, anyway, so if a patient needed to have something done, if it was like a local, a resuscitation medication, meaning they couldn't find your pulse, well, let's put some cocaine in there and see what happens.
Some cocaine on it.
What's my favorite meme? Oh, you have ghosts in your blood. Better do cocaine about it. Yeah,
right,
that's my favorite meme. I'll have to post it on the Patreon page. So, I mean, everybody knows about Coca-Cola having cocaine in it. I mean, that was people's afternoon pick-me-up. So they'd give you a little 10-minute break or something, and you'd go run down to the soda fountain and get you a Coca-Cola afternoon pick-me-up. And
wonder if they stir it in like we would do like
probably.
Sweet tea. You just stir it in.
It's a pharmacy.
Yeah.
The soda fountains were normally inside of pharmacies, so yeah, that was probably in the Coca-Cola recipe. Kind of thing, or
2
whatever
scoops.
Cola. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know how you measure it. Let's not ask Cocaine Bear. Oh, we can't, can we? Aw. I need to stop saying y'all. And I'm even so much more organized than I have been on the last several of these because I actually wrote this out. So Coca-Cola did that until 1903. That's when they nixed the cocaine and the Coca-Cola.
1903. You think that was there significance to that coming out, or
they were starting to come down on addictive drugs?
You think so?
Yeah. No, that's what I read. I just didn't put it in here.
I gotcha.
But yeah, they were starting to come down more on the different. They were starting to find that they were addictive, is how I should phrase that. Because
So
this
cocaine
next
built
section,
a brand off of being addictive, kind of. You say that
well, but caffeine's addictive.
That's true.
So I mean, like, it's still addictive, and it just won't pick you up as high as the original model would have.
Right.
And that's
like the OG.
Yeah. Okay. They also prescribed cocaine for your allergies. Heroin was prescribed for cough. And this floored me. Also, okay, here's another episode of The Dollop all about the founding of like opiates and when they became a thing. And they started back in ancient and like Japan all the way to the modern opiate epidemic that we're having in the United States right now. Yeah. So they go in depth with this. So I did pull a little bit of information that I remembered from that episode for this and did a bit of Googling. So they invented heroin to overcome people's addiction to morphine.
Oh, okay.
Whereas, like, I think there were people at the time who were addicted to both. I mean, like what they are now, the uppers and the downers. So you'd take one to chill out and the other to perk you up. So the cocaine probably came to get the people off of the heroin, you know, that kind of thing.
Well, I think
but
there's
cocaine's
stories
more natural, right? Other than the gasoline they put in it today.
Yeah, I was gonna say, thought that like even tribes and stuff used cocaine to.
Yeah, like if they had to do, like I think the Mayans and the Incan, they chewed the leaves for energy while they were doing on their little road path things. Yeah, messenger dudes. That's the technical term, messenger dudes. So, and it became. They started using the heroin as a main ingredient in cough syrup, and it's it was a whole body suppressant. It wasn't just a cough suppressant,
Right.
but it was a whole body suppressant. So, I mean, like, you would just pass out instead of, I
Coughing.
guess, coughing.
Yeah.
But I guess, I mean,
Like
isn't that like the kind
NyQuil.
of the thing of the cough syrup with codeine that they used
Yeah.
to hand out so readily when you had a
Yeah.
sore throat or a cough? It's probably about the same thought process, I would think. And so, and then once we move past the cough syrup, around 1898, the Bayer Drug Company, the same one that exists today, think about baby aspirin, replaced morphine with the heroin, claiming it to be non-addictive. It was supposed to have been a solution for morphine.
Right. Which probably had a huge population of folks that was addicted to that.
Yeah. And then opium, I guess you would consider that like the precursor to heroin and morphine, because both of those are chemically messed with, correct? Heroin and
Oh, right.
morphine.
Yeah,
I mean, they
couldn't
said
tell
they
you.
invented heroin.
Yeah.
And I believe that morphine was also a compounded drug. I don't think it was just, we're going to go get this from a morphine flower.
Right.
So the precursor to both of those would have been opium. They smoked it, and the ladies around the world, especially, you hear about it in the South a lot, or I guess it was an open secret kind of thing, was laudanum.
Oh, I was just fixing to ask about that because
Yeah.
that was in Tombstone. That's
Yeah.
the one. That's what I remember the most
Everybody
about that.
learns about laudanum is from Tombstone. Wyatt Earp's wife, or common law wife, excuse me. Yeah, I know too much about that, y'all, too. I wrote a paper about the shootout at the OK Corral and if it was actually a conspiracy. I don't even remember the grade, but the teacher was, that's thinking outside the box. Okay, so laudanum was derived from opium. It was considered like a tincture. So they would have like soaked the opium in alcohol, basically. So like it's a bottle of whiskey, or it may have been maybe rose water for a lady, or sherry, but it would have been soaked into that liquid and then they would have drank it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times you would hear about ladies not being able to come down for dinner, or they just can't get out of bed today. Well,
Right.
it was all because they were hooked on laudanum for their monthly complaints, as they may have been called. And
Oh, that never dawned on me that would be one of the reasons.
oh, it was
back
prescribed.
Then.
Yeah. It would have been prescribed for any, oh, well, she's complaining about something. Just give her some laudanum.
Right. That'll help her out. Yeah.
Yeah. She questioned about where the money for the groceries went while you were at the bar. Laudanum.
Right.
I could have been a copywriter in the 1800s. Missed my calling, or my decade. Anyway, so they prescribed laudanum from everything from womanly complaints to a soldier who had battle wounds. But the saddest victim of laudanum was probably the babies.
Oh, yeah. Probably drinking mom's milk and...
Okay, well, there could be that.
Or did they give it to him for teething?
You nailed it. So they had this drug that was sold like worldwide. I mean, like it was Europe, America, or United States. Everybody had this stuff. It was called Mrs. Winslow's Soothing Syrup. So if Jimmy's a little fussy, you can have ended that with Mrs. Winslow's Soothing Syrup.
Oh, nice.
And you could have ended Jimmy forever.
Was that laudanum? They
Yes.
did. It was.
Yeah, it was
So
laudanum.
was it like a watered down version, like a?
I think what they were supposed to do was like, you hear people say, and I don't know if they do this up north, but down here, well, rub some whiskey on that baby's gums.
Right.
If they're teething.
Yeah.
So I think it was kind of like that. Like, put your finger over the bottle top,
It's
tip it
not.
over.
Yeah, it's not very much.
Yeah. And just rub it on their gums. But here's the thing with tinctures and things, as they sit, they settle. So if mama ain't shaking up Mrs. Winslow's every time she's giving it to baby, who knows what, or she shakes it once and doesn't shake it the next time.
Right.
What is going to be the level of laudanum that baby is absorbing into its system, right?
Have they found like bones and stuff and done tests about that, or is this
They
all
just
like a
know.
theory?
I mean, like you can see newspaper advertisements for Mrs. Winslow's. It was everywhere in women's magazines. Okay. Yeah, it was highly, like I said, it was all over the Western world. Everybody had it,
right?
And I think a lot of little Jimmies probably didn't make it through teething, which we're coming to. There's a whole thing about babies and teething.
Nice.
So y'all hang on to your butts. So this special little drug, Mrs. Winslow's, it was not made illegal. You want to take a guess when they finally took it off the shelves?
Last week.
Try again. No, that's when the parents just give their kids their meth or whatever. I didn't say that. That was bad.
What was it? That's probably the 60s? Close.
Back a little bit more.
Just like around World War II or whatever. Probably.
Right before then. They didn't make it illegal until the 1930s.
Right.
So, like I said, we come into some more teething stuff.
Yeah.
We got Mrs. Winslow's. I believe they called that Mama's Little Helper. Or maybe that was what they called the laudanum. I don't remember.
Well, that could go either way.
I read a lot of stuff, y'all. Okay, so this one's about teeth and teething. So way back when they started recording deaths of infants and children, it's been noticed that a high number of their reported deaths were caused by teething. They actually, on their death certificates...
Oh, that's got to be crazy.
would put teething as the cause of death. In the 1840s, it was listed as the cause of death in just over 4% of babies in London. And that was for ages just under a year, 1 year and under. It was 4% of babies a year and under
died of teething. And then
here's what we think the modern explanation is. Yeah. That is the most likely time period for SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
So the babies could just have not been waking up. And especially back then, everybody put their babies on their tummies.
Yeah.
And now we're told not to do that.
No.
So good chance it could have been SIDS, but they didn't understand that. So the baby was cutting a tooth. We're going to say teething did it. From ages 1 to 3, it jumped to over 7% of children in London passing from teething.
Which probably that's them getting their teeth in through that time.
And I didn't look up like how many deaths there were a year of children in those age groups. I didn't go that in depth with it. But I thought that was still an interesting figure just to know the percentages overall. But they would... So... Knowing these statistics and knowing how many babies are dying from teething, there was a French doctor who decided it would be a good idea to start lancing babies' gums.
So that they never teethe.
Well, like so that they're thinking that the eruption...
just punch hole in...
The eruption, like the teeth trying to erupt through the gums is what I guess is traumatic and killing the babies. I think is what they're thinking. And a lot of times they would run fevers... So, babies that's a rough time for babies. So they thought that's what was killing them. So this French doctor decided to actually go in and lancing. It's like, usually they make like an X, right? So wherever he sees like a tooth bud at, they would make an X on the baby's gums.
And that wouldn't hurt for days and days and days.
Well,
right?
And what kind of infection are they getting from the doctor's dirty scalpel or whatever? Is there like,
or an open wound in your mouth? Yeah.
And you're, a 1 or 2 year old playing on the dirty floor, or in the dirt, period. We move away from babies and their killer teeth to good old timey ways to whiten your teeth.
Oh, okay.
And I only have one for this one, so... but it's a doozy.
Must be a doozy.
What do you think the Romans used to whiten their teeth?
Sand?
Would be good for polishing. It'd wear them down quick.
Yeah.
But, no, it's a liquid.
Okay. Baking soda.
It's not a liquid.
That's true.
You're hoping. Oh, it's a bodily fluid.
Oh, ew.
Fresh urine. But it had to be fresh. You couldn't use old pee.
What? Just
like night before. Like, no, it
the,
needed to be fresh.
Right out of the.
Yeah.
Right.
Ew, babe, we're all girls.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was a little much. The Romans liked to whiten their teeth. But the biggest rage for the rich folks in Elizabethan England was sugar.
Ugh,
Sugar was brand new, and they had it on everything because they could afford to. So everybody's teeth were rotten. The queen had black teeth, but they considered that a status symbol.
Yeah, I can afford to have black teeth.
Yeah. I mean, and like we're so the opposite of that now.
Oh, yeah.
So they would just chew on some charcoal and blacken their teeth right up. But you know, people use charcoal stuff to whiten their teeth now. So they were like actually probably doing the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah, but I've heard that stuff actually got like it started out real strong, and then they found out that it was grinding up people's teeth too because of what was inside the mixture.
Oh, it was too gravelly, like sandpaper basically on your teeth.
Yeah.
All right, so our next group is going to be a wondrous new thing from the American colonies.
Uh-oh.
Tobacco.
Oh. North Carolina.
Okay, I don't get the reference.
Lots of tobacco was grown.
It was Carolina. A lot of it was grown right here in this town.
Yeah.
Even when we were kids, when we were kids, that's what people did for summer jobs was go pick tobacco.
Yeah.
But so, have you ever heard of the saying, blow smoke up someone's...
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in the 1700s, they thought that this could save you from drowning.
That if they blew smoke up your butt.
Yes.
So after you drowned, they pulled your pants off.
Yes.
Smoked a cigarette and blew smoke up your
They
butt.
didn't do cigarettes yet. They were pipes.
They were pipes.
Yeah.
And then just...
This makes it easier to blow smoke up someone's rear end. Okay, so let me tell you how they went about this.
Oh, Jesus.
So, okay, you pull your drowning victim from the water. Oh, no, they're not breathing. So you roll them over quickly, pull their pants down, as producer Mike guessed, and then you find some dude around you smoking a pipe, because somebody's going to be smoking a pipe. And if you've seen those pictures, they had some long stems on them. So they would kind of tap it at the pipe out just a little bit, so it wasn't too burny. Then they would shove the pipe into your bunghole. No. Place like a little filtery paper over the pipe bowl, and then blow into it.
Oh,
and blow smoke up your butt. So now you know where the saying "blowing smoke up your" comes from. I mean, yes, and it's real. This was a real treatment.
Wow. And when it didn't work, how many times?
I mean,
actually,
it just wasn't
how
meant
many
to
times
be.
did it work?
Okay, so I have one case here. I didn't go into too much detail because I knew this was going to be long. So in the 1700s, this was going on, and okay, so sometime it did work, and even though it was more likely the act of them rolling the body over is probably what brought the person back because they dislodged the water from their lungs, they would sometimes start to breathe again magically. So soon this treatment was being used to treat everything from headaches to cholera.
Oh, Jesus. So how do you medically explain this to somebody that you're going to do this? Like, sir, in order for you to get rid of
a stimulant?
In order for you to get rid of those hiccups, we're going to have to drop trowel and we're going to have to blow smoke up your butt, and that'll cure all your ills.
Well, and who goes for that?
I don't know.
I mean, I know people used to really revere doctors and the educated, but I don't know if I revere anybody that dang much. I think I'll just keep the headache.
Right. Yeah.
And cholera I think that gives you diarrhea. So could you imagine the pipe blower?
No.
No. No. I don't know what our ancestors were thinking. It's like, what's the TikTok guy? Stop it, white people.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have a visit from tobacco again in a little bit.
Okay.
But next we're going on to a topic, and this one, y'all, I had never heard of. This was a new one. Okay, and for the blowing the smoke up your bum, that came to me originally from the dollop also, and that is in the Heimlich maneuver episode of all things. You. So the episode goes from blowing smoke up your bum to resuscitate you, to saving choking victims, to learning about CPR. And that's also a dollop episode. So those, luckily I'm on their Patreon, so I am at least paying for this information.
Right.
I'm passing along from them. But yeah, okay, so here's one last bit, and then I think we're going to call this an episode, and it'll end up being a two-parter. And y'all, it's wild. So there were things called milk transfusions and xenotransplantation.
Milk transfusion?
Yes. Like, you
Is
know.
that anything like blowing smoke up your
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, if you allowed them to give you a milk transfusion, they might as well have been blowing smoke up your butt.
Right.
Yeah. So, yes, just like what it sounds, and it is what it sounds like. Like I had blood transfusions for my anemia.
Yeah.
Well, they were thought. Let's see, I even got this dude's name. Dr. Howe theorized that milk would be the perfect blood substitute. And so he actually transfused milk into animals and people, and pretty much all of them died.
I was going to say, like, I doubt there was any survivors there.
But blood transfusions were very, very dangerous back in this time because they didn't know about blood typing yet. Mm-hmm. So he thought by using milk, he could get around if there was a problem with, like, because basically if you get the wrong blood type, your blood starts to clot.
Yeah.
And it turns against each other and it makes it clot, something like that. So he thought he was finding a way around that by doing milk because everybody drinks milk.
Right.
So he thought it would be okay to replace blood with milk. And they still kept trying this until they discovered cross-typing in 1901.
Wow.
So, I mean, like,
so
I know that's like well over, you know, it's 122 years ago now.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, like, that's not that long ago, really, and they were still putting milk in your veins.
Right.
Now, xenotransplantation. This is when you do an implant to a human from a different species or cross species.
Oh gosh, like a knee replacement or something like that.
Yeah, well, I thought you were even going to go like Nazi.
Like body
like the
parts?
Nazi experiments and stuff.
Oh, no.
No, but yeah, kind of. It's like, okay, think of it like how we would use it. We still use this today. Valve replacement. You can get a cow or a pig valve.
Oh, okay.
So that would be xenotransplantation because it was from one species to another.
Right.
Another thing how we still use is applicable, I believe, or they may not do this anymore. It may all be synthetic, but insulin. Used to, they would get insulin from horses and cows, I think.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they would like harvest it from animals. But now I think it's all synthetic, but y'all don't quote me on that. I'm not positive. So anyway, so this is still a practice that occurs today.
Right, yeah.
And it's beneficial. But again, in the early 1900s, they thought that maybe it was the way to the fountain of youth. In one case, they took goat testes and implanted them into the abdomen of a man, thinking that it would give the dude like the characteristics of a goat. Like Randy is a goat.
Put testes in his tummy?
Yeah.
Like inside?
They
like
just
cut
thought
him
that,
open?
I guess they thought they would still make hormones.
And then the body would just naturally absorb it.
But they're just floating in there.
I bet that killed him too, like infection.
I would think there'd be a few dead people after that. Then the next...
That's a wild one.
Yeah, that one's pretty wild. And then in another situation, they took some gland from a chimpanzee and they implanted it into an 80-year-old man in hope to restore his former glory, so to speak.
Oh, jeez. Same thing, just cut them open, you pop it in.
Yeah.
Like it's just gonna secrete and the body's gonna absorb.
It didn't work either.
You know what? But I mean, if they like, how would you know where to go get that gland right out of that chimpanzee? Know that it's attached to something, and that's what it's used for. Whatever the whatever
the purpose.
Yeah, whatever the purpose is, and then you just drop it into a person and be like, his body will absorb it.
Yeah, it's gonna keep working.
Right? Yeah.
But it was wild, y'all. I appreciate modern day medicine.
Yeah.
Please don't be blowing smoke up my butt or
if you think about that though, like we've come that far, and
and thank you for washing your hands.
Yeah, right.
There's another one.
So we've gone that far in 120 years, and with as fast as everything changes nowadays, where we're going to be in another 120 years,
If we're allowed to keep moving forward, that's just what I hope, that we keep.
A lot of times that kind of stuff does, regardless of what else is going on around you.
I guess science marches forward whether it's funded or not.
Yeah. Somewhere,
somehow.
Yeah.
It'll happen. But I think this is where we're going to leave y'all, patrons. Thank y'all so much for being here. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I know we get wild on these. And in our next Patreon episode, you'll have more to look forward to because there were so many. It was really hard to just pick a handful of them. But we'll be sure to get into those next time. And thank y'all so much for helping us out. It means a lot to us.
It does. Thank you.
And with that, we'll talk to y'all later on the next Lore of the South Patreon.